To many. Weza Matomane, or better known as Weza, that guy. Weza is a dynamic, vibrant, and extraordinary South African. He's a radio host on Cliff Central and is profiled by Destiny Man magazine as South Africa's top 40 most dynamic men under the age of 40. Named top 5 most inspirational under 40 by Franchise Co. Tomorrow's Leaders Convention. Weza is the CEO of WTG Media House. With more than half a decade in the media and entertainment industry, Weza has become South Africa's top voiceover artist, public speaker, TV presenter, actor, entrepreneur, and speaking skills coach. He has founded and led many organizations seeking to empower youth in disadvantaged societies in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, with a focus on intrinsic motivation and self-help. Please join me in welcoming Weza Matomane.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. All right, 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. All right, excellent. So I'll try to switch the voice off for today, just in case it distracts you in any way. All right, so I'm the last speaker. Hopefully I can make this good, make this exciting, and get us all out of here feeling really jumped up and motivated. The theme is Dare to Invent the Future. Wow. What an interesting theme. So I actually had the privilege of hosting the Emerging Researchers Symposium at the CSIR recently. And in attendance was the chairperson and co-founder of the World Economic Forum, Professor Klaus Schwab from Germany. Now he pretty much is in the lead in terms of the people who are really coming up with things that will be happening in the future, especially when it comes to technology and science and things like that. One of the things he highlighted is that we are going into a world where robots and AI is going to be programming other robots because humans are just not, they're just not on that level, you know what I mean? It's interesting. That means that eventually our academic excellence or academic know-how will be obsolete because robots will know how to do everything on their own and they won't need us. And then he said, that means that we would have to redefine what it is to be a human because it will no longer be about how smart you are, which degree you have, because we won't need you and your smartness at all. In fact, now, what would be more interesting is that we would have to redefine ourselves in terms of the connection that we have with other people. And social intelligence then becomes something that would be one of the most valuable assets going in the next 50 to 100 years from now. And that's what I'm talking about today. Now, there are 2 types of people when we talk about social intelligence. There are people who would come onto stage and say, hey, here I am. And then there are people who come on stage and say, ah, there you are. Being really great at social intelligence or being a social genius means that you have to be a good combination of both of these and be able to handle any situation in a great way. Sometimes you need to be that guy. And other times you need to make another person feel like they're that guy, you know? And it's a good balance between these two that actually help us succeed well in our organizations as leaders, but also we do very well in our relationships and family, and also, of course, those romantic relationships as well. Everywhere, this becomes one of the most important things. But let's have a look at some of the people who've done really, really well when it comes to this. First up, let's have a look at the man behind the $100 bill, Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin was described as a social genius by the people of his time. He was excellent in every regard. But interesting enough, he never really started this way. Let me actually show you a little bit more about his life. Now he was one of 17 kids. Wow, imagine. So you could already imagine the type of attention he was getting was pretty much a 17th of the attention that most people get. Yes. Other than this, as you can see right there, he dropped out at the age of 10 years old from school. I don't know what you know at 10, but he thought he was sharp. He was like, you know what, I'm sharp. And there he was. And of course, he arrives in London at the age of around 17, 18, broke And he arrived there through a scam because the governor in his previous country, in the then America, but it was not called America back then, where he was back then, had promised him some great prosperity in London. And when he arrived there, you know, it was not necessarily to be. When he got there, he also faced a lot of different challenges, because what would happen is he was very gullible at times, and that's in fact what got him in London in the first place. The other thing is he was not very social with other people. In fact, what ended up happening is some of his colleagues used to sabotage his work while he was working in a printing factory. He then had to learn some social skills, because if you can get to understand people, get to a really great common level with most people and get along with most people, they'll help you get what you want eventually. And actually that's the main thing, because he went and he took his life from that to now in his later life. These are just some of his accomplishments. Franklin is, of course, as you can see right there, first of all, Franklin was a leading author, printer, politician, and the list really goes on. Inventor is what stands out for me. Comedian, I never knew that. And in fact, the list really stretches on. And he was endeavoring to really achieve mastery in his craft, in everything that he was doing. Just to highlight a few of the things he did, for instance, when we look at innovation itself. Now, Franklin, in terms of innovation, invented some of the great things that you see up there. Some of the ones that probably are used every day by those who use either public transport or even drove here. The odometer, right there at the very bottom. The thing that counts how many kilometers you've traveled. He invented that. The bifocal lens, I see you wearing glasses. Bifocal lens, he invented that. But how can you do this and still be something else, like a president of an actual country and stuff like that? It's crazy. He did everything. And the main thing is that it's not necessarily that he was just a genius in academic work, but it was that he could connect with people on this amazing level that made him able to work in many different teams, alternatively, of course, achieving the outcome that he wants out of every situation. And that's what I'm actually talking to you about today. How can we actually start to develop those traits? Obviously, it's a very, very deep conversation. We can't really have it in 10 minutes. But let's just highlight a couple of things that I've come up with. Most of the things I'm going to talk about, by the way, are things that you might have come across before. Because... The battery? Oh, don't worry about it. I think it will hold on. Hold on, battery, hold on. We're almost there. Cool. So, as I said, we know everything. So some of the things I'm going to say are things that you might already know. We know everything until we are reminded. So you might actually get reminded of some of the things that you had already come across and be like, oh, I see now where it comes together. So let's talk about some of these things. First of all, talking about nature. Going into nature and understanding how people and nature actually come together. Here's the first thing. We have to find out about people what really makes them who they are. Jesus once said in an example when he was being asked about the future that by their fruits you will recognize them. He was talking about how they would recognize certain religious organizations. Now, here's the interesting part there. He says, by no means shall a good tree bear bad fruit, and a bad tree bear good fruit. But now let's say, how do we analyze people in that same analogy? We have to find out what the soil is that those roots were formed, so we can understand people even better. If someone is delivering really great fruit, and you're saying, that's some good fruit for a person with your background, you know, then you can understand that, wow, actually this person comes from really tough times for them to actually be this great. Or in fact, the inverse. If someone is not necessarily delivering what should be expected of them, it's sometimes not necessarily something to do with the actual tree, but sometimes it has to do with the soil in which those roots were formed. So when you understand people on that deeper level, then you can actually start to get more out of people in terms of getting a rapport out of them as well. And let's actually go even further with this. I've got here some people. couple of personalities. 3 different personalities, as you can see. Now what happens is all of them get into a really heated argument. Ah, yeah, and it's your fault. No, it's your fault. It's racism. So, all right. So they just got into a heated argument. As you can see right now, you can still see this guy's pretty angry, right? You can kind of see that. This one looks like he's calmed down already. Okay, cool. That's pretty cool. And this one looks like, yeah, he's also pretty calm. Now, what's going to be interesting, I'm going to put these in front of you so that later on, we're actually going to see how they do if we give them some time, you know. We had this argument yesterday. Let's see how they do the next day when we actually have a confrontation about some of the things that happened before, especially considering the fact that some of them really look calm. They look like, no, man, I'm fine. Can't you see I'm fine? Now we're going to get to see in a short while how these guys behave. And that is going to touch with this theme that I'm talking about now, is that sometimes in an organization or even in friendship or in family relations, what we are dealing with sometimes when we think we're dealing with a problem is not necessarily the actual problem. It's just an effect. It's not the cause. So there's the smoke. Sometimes you think the smoke is the problem. Meanwhile, there's a fire somewhere else. So you can actually open the windows thinking that you're clearing out the smoke and that's solving the problem. But actually, the problem still continues. So sometimes when you have this great understanding of people, you can then get to understand what are the causes of some of the effects that you don't like. And if you're able to go down on that type of level, that's where you can actually get really great results out of people as well. Now let's look at our friends. Okay, so the first one. He looks pretty chilled. Let's find out. Hey man, how are you doing? Yeah, no, he's fine. He's fine. Whew. All right. So you already know how Coke behaves, right? Julle ken nou die story. Okay. Let's see how Coke will behave. I mean, I've seen people spill things on the stage already, so I'm not shy anymore. All right, so, hey man, how you doing? You know, I'm so sorry about that thing of yesterday, but... Hey. All right, okay, cool. He was a little angry, but then he got over it. That's cool. That's cool. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Now let's look at this guy. He's really chilled. Like, I mean, he was chilled from the time we had the fight. He should be fine, right? Let's find out. Hey, man, about that thing that we had the... Wow. You get those type of people too, where it looks like everything's fine. It looks like, no, man, we forgot about immediately after the fight. No, they buried it. They're ready, Baba. So, when you understand that in an organization, or even in families, as a leader, or just as someone who's a co-worker, that you have different personalities that you have to deal with. And you understand that there are ways to deal with these different people. You see, when someone is this angry, you have to open them up in phases. Like, hey, how you... Okay, sorry, man, I'm so... Okay, and what... You know, over time, you can actually open it up. But it needs a certain type of technique. But only when you understand that there are different types of people, do you not assume that everyone is like you. Just because you are like water, man, it's over. Get over it, bro. It's like small, eh? You know, don't think that everyone's going to think the same. You know, it was the same argument. You saw it was the same argument, but people handle it differently. And that's another thing that Franklin found out early and started to work along with that to achieve this amazing wealth that he had for himself, this great empire. And I think we can do it too. Let's carry on, because now it gets even more interesting. We move away from nature, we go to fun. How many of you guys have played games like hide and seek? Yeah. Yes, it is called differently, right? So that's the people who played hide and seek. How many played Black My Patili? All right. How many played Mkuku? Yeah. And how about people who played Ndizi? Ah, okay. Excellent. The interesting thing here is this game is more or less the same, right? If I kind of explain it to you in the first part of it, it's You guys hide and then someone else comes looking for you. Yeah, we all get the game. The problem that we normally make as little kids is that we never talk about the rules of the game. Because actually, these rules are a little bit different from hide and seek, you know? Who played wegkruipertjie? Waar is die Afrikaanse mense? Ja, daar sê man. And the rules are different. And of all of these, because in Mkoko, I'll say Mkoko, then they'll say, do you guys do that in hide and seek? You see, no one does that in hide and seek. And then after that, I'll say Amakai. You see what I mean? They even know what to say. And then they'll tell me a certain number. I have to count those number of eggs. Then I come looking for them. That's Mkuku. But it's kind of the same game, but it's played with different rules. Now let's look at another one. Maybe there's another one. There's a black version of hide and seek. Ne? It is like hide and seek, quack, quack, quack. Hide and seek. Literally, they know it. Yeah, it's played. So it feels the same when I first explain it to you. What is the lesson here? The lesson is, I'm so glad that it makes you laugh. The lesson is that often in life, even now as adults, we think that we know what this relationship thing is. So let's get into it. We don't know what the other person's rules of the game are. Sometimes that's important to first understand, hey man, how do you play this game? Before we start to play, just tell me how does yours work? The other one is Crazy 8. Some people know that there's many fights in Crazy 8, many court cases. Because Crazy 8 is a cards game that you play, and there are certain rules. Like for instance, a 2 means take 2, but only for some people. And then a 7 means I'm jumping you, but others is like, no, you see what I mean? Like, no, 7 means you're turning around. And then half the people say this and half the people say that. What does the joker do? Nothing. Others say, no, take 8. And it's like, what? Yeah. So these are great examples of situations where if we don't talk about it first, before we get into it, there's big arguments that come out. So that means that if we can take that example and put it into real life, if we can actually first get to understand the roots and the soil in which people were formed, and now we understand who they are and the actions that they actually out here doing, then we can perhaps have more empathy. I heard earlier that when we have more empathy, we can actually build a more inclusive world. So that is actually something really important, getting to understand people in that deeper level. But I am almost done. I said actually up there that it's like a game of tennis. Why am I saying tennis? I feel like actually, by the way, just a side note, since no one's talking after me, I might as well just have a ball. So, so why did I say tennis? You see, imagine we playing a game of tennis. So I'm making a bad example. I should have picked on a girl, but now it's us. So it's you and me, we're in this relationship together, right? So the intention of our relationship is to last very long, right? Everyone wants to have a long-lasting relationship. Meaning a long-lasting tennis match is we hitting the ball between us like for a very long time, right? I'm glad you participating. So, but now here's the interesting thing. Because we come from different backgrounds, sometimes we came to the tennis match with different types of tools. Because when I explained the game to you, in the abstract sense, it was, oh, it's just this game where there's a ball and then you hit it and, you know, just, yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, a ball and I hit it. All right, sounds a lot like cricket. So I get there with my cricket bat and my spikes and things. And the other person maybe thought it was maybe a game of baseball, or maybe they thought it was going to be literally tennis. So the other person is dressed for tennis, they're prepared for tennis, and I come dressed for cricket. Well, I still have a bat, I'm still going to hit, but the ball is a lot softer, meaning that if I hit it too hard, it'll go too far, right? Yeah, and the other thing is, I don't have the right shoes for this match. right? So if we don't have a conversation first to say, hey man, tell me about your background. Tell me about the roots and the soil in which your roots were formed. So I can get to understand, oh, you don't have a tennis racket like I do? All right, because your bat is smaller, I'm going to hit straight at you and not hit in areas where you're not standing, so that you can actually hit the ball back a lot easier. Because sometimes what we do is we expect the other people to be just as great as Roger Federer. He gets to every ball, man, because he's got the right type of shoes for the game. But now my cricket friend doesn't. And if I'm in a relationship with them, chances are the relationship won't last long, because they're not adequately equipped for this game, unless we first have an understanding to say, I'll play where you're standing and you never have to run. I'll play where you're standing so that I know that you're not much of a talker or an expresser, and I'm not going to expect that of you. I'm going to expect of you what you are. I know that you're not much of a feelings person, so I'm not going to expect you to show me your feelings all the time. I'll play where you're standing most of the time. In that case, what will happen? Chances are we'll play for a very long time, because he's hitting, I'm hitting, he's hitting. Yeah, that's understanding. People on the emotional level, relationship-wise, whether it's for families or in fact even for businesses. The last point, I think, is to do with the restaurant approach. Here's now something interesting. Casino versus restaurant. I like to use these funny, crazy concepts so that you can remember it a bit longer. So, casino. Most of us actually love the thrill of living life almost like a casino. We expect people to kind of just know out of the blue what to do. And we're like, oh, wow, I'm so grateful you just get me, you know. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, you just want them to take the initiative, right? And just do it without me saying it. My mom's here today. Now, I sometimes get into debates with my mom, because I remember times where my dad would say, all right, I'm going to go and buy us some cool drink. What should I buy? And she says, you know what to buy, just go buy it. And he's like, no, that's why I'm asking you, so that I can actually buy the right stuff. And she says, you know what we buy here in the house, just go buy it. And I'm thinking, Mom, it would have been so long ago if you just said Coke. You know? Don't laugh at my mom, guys. Keep it quiet. But that's actually the truth of life. It's not just my mom who's guilty of that. People are just guilty of that sometimes. We just wish the other person instinctively knew the right stuff. Guess what? We live life like a casino, where you hope to get that 6 and another 6 so that you can win the jackpot. Or maybe, you know, you got your cards and you're hoping for a good hand, and chances are, most of the time, you don't get a good hand. In fact, people who overstay their stay at the casino normally leave there as really grumpy people, right? Yeah. Now let's look at the restaurant life. All right, you get to a restaurant and you say exactly what you want. And in fact, sometimes you even get to go into detail. I want it medium rare, just a little bit of a sprinkle, nothing too much. You can go into deep detail of exactly what you want. Guess what? Most of the time, you get exactly what you want. And chances are, people who leave a restaurant, how many times do they not get the order right? Maybe 1 out of 10. How many times do you not get the right hand in a casino? Wow, you get the right hand 1 out of 10. Most of the time you get the bad hand. So would you be rather living a casino life or a restaurant life? Here, at least you can get to order what you want, and it probably comes exactly like that. And guess what? If the order is wrong, then order again. That's the nice thing about the casino. Ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much what I had to talk about. My laptop just crashed. Thank you very much. My name is Weza. Weza, that guy. Thank you.